Hello there, I'm Scott, and this is the 5 new rides that I think that Blackpool Pleasure Beach should build in the future. Now this is the second video like this that I've done, because I did an Alton Towers version last month, and in that video I said that if that got over 200 likes then I would do a Blackpool Pleasure Beach version, and here it is. So this is the 5 new rides that I'd like to see Blackpool Pleasure Beach build in the future. Before we get into what rides I would build at Blackpool Pleasure Beach, just a little disclaimer, this is purely for speculation and for a bit of fun and for a video, and not me in any way suggesting that I could make better decisions about Blackpool Pleasure Beach's future than anyone else, because I'm not qualified to do so. And secondly, I haven't really got a time frame on when these rides would be built at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. It's just a case of this is 5 rides I'd really like to see Blackpool Pleasure Beach build in the future. It doesn't matter if it's in the next 5 years, 10 years or 15 years. I really don't know. It's just a case of I'd really like to see these 5 rides at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. So enough of the disclaimers, let's talk about rides. The first one is not a roller coaster. It's something that for probably 20 years on roller coaster forums I've been like, Blackpool Pleasure Beach should definitely build one of these, and it's an Intamin gyro swing. Now back in the old days on the forums I was thinking something more like Maelstrom at Drayton Manor, but not anymore. I'm thinking more something like Loki at Leesburg, because that is the best flat ride in the world in my opinion. That is just an incredible airtime filled experience, and it's quite terrifying for people as well, because even though the harness comes over your head, you've got a lot of space in that seat. So you really do feel like you really are exposed to the elements on those rides. But where would I put it at Blackpool Pleasure Beach? Trying to keep this video as realistic as possible. There is going to be times in this video where I say like, I'd remove that ride and put one of these new rides in its place, which is pretty much what I'm going to do straight away here. Because I think an Intamin gyro swing is the perfect replacement for Ice Blast. Ice Blast is a very, very, very popular ride at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. It has been since 1997. But I think we can all agree that Ice Blast is long past its best. And something like an Intamin gyro swing, it's got better capacity, it's more thrilling, it doesn't use as much power as something like an S&S shot tower. It is the perfect replacement for Ice Blast, and it could also take on the Valhalla theme in and have an awesome soundtrack done by the Notable Stranger, just like Valhalla has. So number 2 is probably something that could happen in the next couple of years, and it's a little bit more long-winded than replacing Ice Blast with a gyro swing. So firstly, it goes to something we've spoken about a lot on this channel, which is flatten Planet Rock at Blackpool Pleasure Beach, flatten the arcade building, previously known as the Bolodrome, flatten FY4, get rid of all the seating, all the catering, move it on, potentially get rid of Impossible as well, and then you've got a massive space, including the car park behind the arcade building. That whole area, in my opinion, is the perfect place for the next roller coaster at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. And as always, there is rumours at Blackpool Pleasure Beach, and I have heard a few lately again that this is definitely going to be the new area of sort of roller coaster development at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. Now that could be for 2026 or for 2036. I genuinely don't know about that, but I'm hearing a lot of rumours that the arcade's going, Planet Rock's going, and that whole area is going to be used as redevelopment for Blackpool Pleasure Beach's next big roller coaster. So if that is the case, then what would I put there? Well, I know that some of my friends are going to disagree with this, so I'm sorry about that, guys, but I still think that is the perfect place for a B&M dive machine. I really do. Yes, I know, Alton Towers have got Oblivion. Dive machines are not a new concept. However, that is the easiest way Blackpool Pleasure Beach get back the UK height record from Thorpe Park. It's the easiest way. It might be expensive. I'm not saying it'll be cheap, but I think it's the easiest way they do it. Project Exodus opens next year. It's going to be 236 foot tall, which is obviously a little bit taller than the big one, but not massively taller. So if Blackpool Pleasure Beach wanted to take back the height record for the UK, they could quite simply go with something like 240 foot dive coaster. But what about if Blackpool Pleasure Beach wanted to actually keep the record for a long time again, like they did with the big one? Why not push to 275 or 300 foot for this dive coaster? That is what I would do with that space. I'd be going after the UK record. I don't think the European record's possible, because you're talking nearly well, you're talking nearly tallest coaster in the world sort of levels, because Red Force isn't that far off that. So I don't think they could take that, but they could certainly be looking at easily getting the UK's tallest, and a record that would take years to break again. Number 3 is probably going to cause some more frowns from the people I go to Blackpool Pleasure Beach with, so sorry about that, guys. But this is actually something that we all spoke about last year when we went over to Denmark and did Farup Summerland and Dieu Summerland, and even when we went to Leesburg in April and June this year, where you look at the Vekoma Boomerang roller coasters, the family ones, and you think that would be the perfect ride for Nickelodeon Land at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. Nickelodeon Land has not had a refresh at Pleasure Beach since it opened in 2011, so it's been a long time coming that something could change in that area. I don't know how possible that is, but I think it would be great, a great addition for families and those that are building their way up to doing the bigger rides, to have something like a Vekoma Boomerang in that area of the park. Now, obviously Nickelodeon Land is not blessed with lots of space, so what I'd do is I'd take out Splash Bash because it's unreliable. It only really gets a queue on Scorcher of the days, so I think it's the perfect ride to come out and have basically where the station would go for this Vekoma Boomerang. And then it could take a similar approach to other Vekoma Boomerangs that have been built, especially when you look at Leesburg, where it could have a raised station and obviously just be going above what's already in the area, rather than trying to weave it in and out of small, tight spaces in an already tightly packed amusement park. Of course, you might be watching this thinking, you're a roller coaster enthusiast, you're a thrill seeker, why on earth do you want a family boomerang at Blackpool Pleasure Beach? Well, firstly, I've got a 5-year-old son. He would absolutely love it when he was confident enough to do it. And secondly, I think it would be a great addition to Blackpool Pleasure Beach. It'd be something that would draw families back to Nickelodeon Land and give people an extra reason to go to Blackpool Pleasure Beach as a family. On to number 4 now, and this kind of goes in a way back to the first point, because I said that I'd replace Ice Blast with a gyro swing, but Blackpool Pleasure Beach needs a tower ride. Blackpool Pleasure Beach needs a drop tower ride, especially in my opinion. So where would that go and why? Why would I do this? Well, firstly, I think it's been well documented in Blackpool Pleasure Beach vlogs that I don't really like Skyforce, so I'm taking Skyforce out and then I'm looking at Intamin and saying, come on guys, give us a 300-foot drop tower. Yes, it'd be taller than a big one, but imagine those views, 300-foot drop tower sat at the top waiting to drop, looking over Blackpool Pleasure Beach, looking above the big one and being absolutely terrified. I just think that would perfectly complement the loss of something like Ice Blast, which, like I said at the start of the video, it's past its best. It'll never be back to as good as it was. So if that was replaced, everyone would miss it, because everyone would miss a tower type attraction at the Pleasure Beach. So an easy fix really, in my opinion, is a drop tower ride. Again, I don't know the timescales of this. You could be talking over a 5, 10, 15, 20 year period of things like this all happening. But I think it would be the perfect thing to do once Ice Blast had gone, once a gyro swing was in its place and everyone was going, oh, remember that tower ride Blackpool had? Oh, they haven't got one anymore. Oh, actually, yeah, they have, because they've got a new drop one near the big one, and it's bigger and it's scarier. People would be well into that, I'm certain of it. So Skyforce out, big Intamin drop tower in. The 5th and final ride at Blackpool Pleasure Beach that I would add is not a new ride, which probably sounds really stupid. What I would do is modernise the Grand National. So I'm sorry, we have said the Grand National is the best Woody in the country. It is certainly up there as one of the best rides in the country, in my opinion. However, it could be a hell of a lot better like it used to be back in the old days. So what would I do? Well, look at what Gravity Group have done to Oakwood's Megaphobia. They have literally taken a ride that was so rough and becoming unrideable, and they have made it into one of the best rides or roller coasters in the UK, without a doubt about it. It is absolutely incredible. They've slightly changed the profiling, they've slightly changed some of the drops, they've made it a lot smoother, and they've done all this without changing the trains or too much about the ride. They've made a massive difference to what was a great coaster, but a great coaster that was becoming really rough and really unpleasant to ride. They've made it into a fantastic roller coaster again. So with the Gravity Group and the Grand National, I'd basically get them to start from the beginning and work to the end and just completely retrap the whole thing. Maybe change some of the profiling, maybe just make slight changes here and there to it, but nothing too much away from the original. Obviously, the Grand National is listed, so they can't do too much with it. However, they can modify it to a point where they are refurbishing it. So they could do basically what Megaphobia has had done at Oakwood, where the Gravity Group comes in, takes a large portion of it out, redoes it, change the profiling, put some double drops, double drops in there, or double ups, whatever you call them. And they've just made subtle changes to it, but they've made it a better roller coaster. And I think they could do that with the Grand National. Also, with the Grand National, I'd be looking at getting a station redesign, because I'm sure we can all agree that the station is very, very tight. There's not a lot of room in there. The infrastructure of that station does not lend itself to Speedy Pass and Easy Pass. It just doesn't work. It's not designed for 3 queue lines basically, or 2 queue lines. So I think if Blackpool Pleasure Beach could modify the queue somehow to the point where both the Easy Pass, Speedy Pass and main queue are all a little bit more organised without being so tight, I think that would be excellent. Obviously, it doesn't help that it is a very small station, and I understand that, but even if it was just a little bit easier for everybody to get in the queue and, you know, not have Speedy Pass and Easy Pass having to wait in the exit and not having such a tight queue line, I think it'd be much better. Also, I think it's essential that the Grand National has some sort of storage facility, whether that be on the station or on a baggage area before the queue line, I don't know, but I just don't think it's really good having to take your bags onto the Grand National, because the one way I look at it is you can't take a GoPro on the Grand National, which is fair enough. I understand it. You don't want everybody taking cameras or iPhones on rides and doing filming. I get it, because it's not always safe and not everyone has got insurance and the right equipment to be filming on a roller coaster, so I perfectly understand it. But in my opinion, taking a bag on is actually more dangerous than taking a chest harnessed or a wrist mounted GoPro on, because it's not mounted to anything, it's just in the bottom of the train by your feet. So then you've got a situation where people are riding it trying to not lose their bags, not lose their phones, whilst trying to sit upright and properly in the seat. And obviously on a roller coaster, if you start sitting differently to how you're supposed to be sat, you're potentially going to hurt yourself. But then if you're not paying attention to your baggage or your phone or anything else that's potentially a loose article, then you might lose it, which is then dangerous to anyone else on the ride. So I think that it's essential that, to be fair, I extend this to all the wooden coasters at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. I think in this day and age, I think bags on rides and phones on rides and just having to make sure that you've got all your loose articles with you on something like these rides, I just don't like it. I don't think it's the right thing, and I think that storage for these rides is essential without having to walk back to Noah's Ark, put everything in a locker, and then keep going back between the locker and the rides every time you need to go and get something. So with the Grand National, it would be a full retrack by the Gravity Group, a station redesign, a storage area, which would also improve the efficiency of the loading, because people wouldn't be faffing with their bags when they're getting on. And finally, new trains. I'd get new PTC trains, like what Racer at Kennywood has got, which has got very similar trains to the Grand National, but it has buzz bars, like Blue Flyer, hear me out, instead of having lap bars like the Grand National's currently got. Now you might be thinking, the same restraint as Blue Flyer on the Grand National? Are you mad? Well, I am a bit mad, yeah, because you'd get a lot more airtime, but also you'd still be perfectly safe. The Racer at Kennywood has a lot of airtime, doesn't have the same restraints as the Grand National, you've got a lot more room in them, you've got the buzz bars, you're perfectly safe, you get a lot of airtime, and it's a lot more comfortable because you're not crushed into the seat with that tight lap bar. So it's a win-win situation. Oh, and the last thing I'd change is the computer system, because yeah, the hissing and banging of the Grand National in the station, taking forever to park and not being efficient on 4 trains. They'd never admit it, but it must do Pleasure Beach's head in, and it must have done since, well, back when those trains and that computer system was put in. I remember people at Pleasure Beach saying, what have we done here with this? We should have left it as it was. So I think that ripping that current system out, putting new trains on, a new computerized system, getting it on 4 trains where they can send the trains without having to wait for the other ones to come back and so on, it would improve the Grand National so much. So a retrack, new trains, new computer system, new station, storage baggage, storage area for your bags. It'd be like a new ride basically. So that is why I'm counting it in this video. You'd still have the traditional elements of the Grand National. It'd still be the Grand National. It wouldn't be RMC converted, but it would secure the future of the Grand National for a very long time whilst improving the overall experience for everybody. So that is the 5 new rides, or 5 rides I would build at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. What new rides would you like to see at Blackpool Pleasure Beach? I know everybody is going to be RMCing the Grand National, the big one, the Big Dipper, a Nickelodeon streak in the comments. But what else would you like to see built at Blackpool Pleasure Beach? Would you like to see more flat rides, more coasters, more dart rides? A change to the dart rides. There's rumours about the Ghost Train at the minute having a bit of an overhaul for 2024, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, let us know in the comments what you'd like to see built at Blackpool Pleasure Beach in the future. And also, do you think Blackpool Pleasure Beach are going to build a new coaster? So that pretty much brings this video to an end. If you have enjoyed it, please give it a like. If you could get another video up to 300 likes at least, that would be massively appreciated. And if it was to get something like 300 or 400 likes, then I'd be more than happy doing more speculation videos about Blackpool Pleasure Beach in the coming weeks. Many thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.